Billionaire witnesses the most powerful scene of his life, his janitor playing with his daughter. Richard Harrison came home 2 hours earlier than usual. His business meeting had been cancelled at the last minute, and he decided to take the afternoon to try to bond with Emma, his 7-year-old daughter, who had seemed increasingly distant since losing her mother 3 years ago. As he parked in the garage of his Beverly Hills mansion, Richard heard something that made him freeze. It was the sound of a child's laughter, loud and genuine, coming from the backyard. His heart raced because he immediately recognized his daughter's voice, but there was something different about that laughter he had never heard before. Moving quietly along the side of the house, Richard positioned himself behind one of the terrace columns and watched the scene unfold in the garden. Emma sat on the grass, her golden hair shimmering in the afternoon sun, playing Ring Around the Rosie with Miguel, the family's janitor. "Now it's your turn to be the little duck, Uncle Miguel," the little girl shouted, clapping her hands as the man in his early 40s pretended to be a duck, waddling clumsily around her. "Quack, quack, quack," Miguel called out, wearing a navy blue cap that covered his dark hair while flapping his arms like wings. Richard felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. Never in 7 years had he seen his daughter laugh like that. With him, Emma was always polite but serious. She answered when spoken to, followed the rules, but never showed that spontaneous joy now glowing in her eyes. "Uncle Miguel, now let's play house. You can be the daddy and I'll be the little girl," Emma said, running toward a small playhouse Richard had built in the garden, one she rarely used. "Of course, princess. But first let me tidy up these toys," Miguel replied, gathering scattered balls and hula hoops from the grass. Richard watched how the janitor interacted with his daughter. There was a natural ease between them, a connection he had never managed to create. Miguel spoke to Emma the way he would with any child, without the respectful formality all the staff maintained in the boss's presence. "Daddy Miguel, would you like some coffee?" Emma asked, pretending to pour an invisible cup. "Oh, delicious. The best coffee I've ever had," Miguel answered, making an exaggerated face of delight that sent the little girl into another fit of giggles. At that moment, Richard realized he wasn't alone. Mrs. Parker, the housekeeper who had worked there for over 15 years, approached him quietly. "Mr. Harrison, you're home early today," she whispered, sounding slightly nervous. "How long has this been going on, Martha?" Richard asked, not taking his eyes off his daughter. The housekeeper hesitated for a moment, wringing her hands. "Sir, It's nothing serious. Miguel only plays with her when he finishes his work, in the last 15 minutes before leaving." I asked how long, Martha. "About 3 months, sir. Maybe 4. Richard felt a mix of anger and something he couldn't quite name. How had his staff allowed this to happen without his permission? But at the same time, why did it bother him so much if Emma was clearly happy? Why wasn't I told? "Sir, the little girl, she gets very sad when you leave for work. Sometimes she cries in secret. Miguel saw her crying one day and started telling her stories to cheer her up. Little by little, it turned into playtime." Richard was still processing the information when he heard Emma's voice calling out, "Martha, Martha, come see how Uncle Miguel looks just like a frog." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The housekeeper looked at Richard, clearly torn between obeying the child and remaining respectful toward her employer. "You may go," Richard said, his voice rougher than he intended. Martha approached the garden, and Richard kept watching. He saw how Miguel included the housekeeper in their play, how the three formed a little circle of joy that seemed completely natural. Emma hugged the janitor with the same spontaneity other children would hug their own parents. Suddenly, something shifted in Emma's expression. She stopped playing, and her little face took on a seriousness Richard knew well. "Uncle Miguel, my daddy doesn't play with me. Why doesn't he like me?" The question struck Richard like a sharp blade. He hid further behind the column, his heart beating unevenly. Miguel crouched down to Emma's eye level and gently held her small hands. "Princess, your daddy loves you more than anything in the world. He works so hard just to take care of you. But he never laughs with me like you do." You know what I think. Sometimes daddies get so worried about taking care of their little girls that they forget to play. It's not because they don't like it. It's because they want you to have everything good. Do you have little ones, Uncle Miguel? Richard saw Miguel hesitate for a moment, a shadow passing over his eyes. I had a little girl. She's not with me anymore. Did she go live in heaven? Yeah, princess, she did. So now you take care of me, right? Miguel hugged Emma, and Richard saw tears in the man's eyes. Yeah, now I take care of you. Richard stepped away, walking toward the main entrance of the house. His mind buzzed with conflicting questions and emotions. On one hand, he felt invaded. How dare Miguel create that kind of closeness with Emma? On the other hand, he couldn't deny his daughter was happier than he'd ever seen her. He entered through the front door, making enough noise to announce his arrival. Within minutes, he heard footsteps running down the marble hallway. "Daddy, you're home early." Emma appeared in the foyer, but Richard noticed she had returned to her usual reserved posture. "Yes, sweetheart. How was your day?" "It was good, Daddy. I did my homework and helped Martha." The same polite, lifeless answer as always. Nothing about playing in the garden, nothing about the genuine laughter he had witnessed. "What else did you do?" Emma glanced away for a second. "Just that, Daddy. Can I go to my room?" Of course. Richard watched his daughter climb the curved staircase, her small feet making a rhythmic sound against the polished wooden steps. When she disappeared upstairs, he went to the living room window and saw Miguel putting away the cleaning supplies in a small shed at the back of the property. That night, Richard could barely focus during dinner. Emma ate in silence, answering his questions with monosyllables. When they said good night before she went to bed, she gave him the usual little kiss on the cheek, but without the spontaneous affection she had shown Miguel. After Emma went upstairs, Richard called Martha into his office. "Martha, I need to talk to you about Miguel." The housekeeper stiffened. "Sir, if there's any issue with his work, it's not about his work. It's about how close he is with Emma." "Mr. Harrison, I assure you there's never been anything inappropriate. Miguel is a family man, hard-working. He just what? He understands Emma in a way. Well, in a special way." "Explain." Martha sighed, clearly uncomfortable. "Miguel lost his daughter 2 years ago, an accident. Since then he has a soft spot for children. But he never crosses any lines, sir. It's just play." Richard felt a tightness in his chest. So that was it. Miguel saw in Emma the daughter he had lost, and Emma found in him the playful father figure Richard had never known how to be. "Where does he live?" "In a little rented house in Pinewood, sir." "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. You may go." That night, Richard stayed awake until 4 in the morning, replaying the scene he had witnessed. Every detail was etched in his mind. The way Emma looked at Miguel, the naturalness of their hugs, the genuine joy in her voice. At 7 in the morning, when Miguel arrived for work, Richard was waiting for him in the service area. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison. Do you need something?" "I need to talk to you, Miguel." Richard noticed how the man stiffened, as if he knew the conversation wouldn't be pleasant. "Of course, sir. About your closeness with Emma." Miguel lowered his head. "Sir, if I did anything wrong, I apologize. I never meant to overstep." "Miguel, do you have children?" The man looked up, surprised by the question. "I did, sir. A little girl." "What happened?" Miguel took a deep breath. "A car accident 2 years ago. My wife was driving coming back from school. A truck ran a red light." He didn't finish the sentence, but Richard understood. "And you live alone now?" "Yes, sir." "Miguel, I saw you playing with Emma yesterday." The man's face paled. "Sir, I would never harm the girl. She's like your daughter." Miguel nodded, his eyes wet. "I'm sorry, sir. I know it's not my place. It's just that the girl sometimes seems so sad." Richard studied the man before him. Miguel was 42, with dark hair just beginning to grey at the temples and hands calloused from work. There was an honesty in his eyes that couldn't be faked. "Miguel, do you think I'm a good father?" The question surprised them both. Miguel hesitated, clearly torn between honesty and respect. "Sir, it's not my place to judge. I'm asking your opinion. You're a devoted father. You work hard to give the girl the best. But, maybe the girl needs more time than things." Miguel's words echoed in Richard's mind for the rest of the day. During the business meeting, while discussing the acquisition of a new company, all he could think about was Emma's laughter in the garden. When he returned home that afternoon, he found Emma in her room, drawing. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" "Drawing, Daddy." Richard approached and saw she had drawn 3 figures, a man in a suit, a girl with blonde hair, and another man in a cap. "Who are these people?" Emma hesitated. "It's us, Daddy." "And who's the man in the cap?" It's Uncle Miguel." Richard felt his chest tighten again. "Why did you draw him with us?" "Because he's our friend." That night, Richard made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, he called Miguel again. "Miguel, I need you to keep your distance from Emma." "Sir, you're not to play with her or talk to her beyond what's necessary. Just do your job." "But sir," "No discussion. If you can't follow this, I'll have to let you go." Richard saw the pain in Miguel's eyes but stood firm. He couldn't allow an employee to form an emotional bond with his daughter that he himself couldn't establish. "Understood, sir." The following days were different in the house. Emma often asked about Miguel, but Mrs. Parker always changed the subject. Richard noticed his daughter had grown quieter, more withdrawn. One Thursday morning, Richard left for a meeting but returned an hour later because he'd forgotten an important document. As he entered the house, he heard crying from the garden. Through the window, he saw Emma sitting alone on the grass, hugging a stuffed bear and crying. Miguel was on the other side of the garden, trimming some plants, clearly making an effort not to approach the little girl. Richard observed the scene for nearly 10 minutes. Miguel glanced at Emma from time to time, visibly pained that he couldn't comfort her. Emma cried softly, as if she didn't want anyone to hear her. When Miguel finished cutting the plants and headed to the shed, Emma followed him with her eyes, her sobs growing louder. At that moment, Richard realized he had made a mistake. "Martha," he called the housekeeper. "Yes, sir." "Why is Emma crying?" She's been crying every day, sir, ever since Miguel stopped playing with her." "And you didn't tell me?" "I thought you knew, since it was your order." Richard felt a weight on his conscience. He had separated his daughter from the only person who could make her smile to protect his own wounded pride. That afternoon, he tried to play with Emma the same way he had seen Miguel do. "Emma, want to play in the garden?" The little girl looked up, surprised. "Play what, Daddy?" "Whatever you want." They went to the garden, but Richard felt completely awkward. He didn't know how to imitate animals, how to make up stories, or how to do the funny voices Miguel did. Emma tried to have fun, but it was clear she was just being polite. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. "Daddy, are you busy?" Emma asked after 20 minutes of forced play. "Why do you ask?" "You keep looking at your watch." Richard glanced at his wrist and realized he had indeed been checking the time constantly. His mind was still on business, even as he tried to be present for his daughter. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Daddy's still learning how to play." "Uncle Miguel knew how to play really well. Do you miss him?" Emma nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "He did funny voices and made up stories. And when I was sad, he said my mommy in heaven was proud of me." Richard froze. No one had ever told him that Miguel talked about Catherine with Emma. He talked about mommy. He said she was a star now, and that every night she looked down at me from heaven, and that when I was sad, I just had to look at the stars, and she'd send a gentle breeze to make me feel better. Tears streamed down Richard's face. Miguel hadn't just been playing with Emma, he'd been helping her cope with the loss of her mother in a way Richard himself had never known how to. "Emma, would you like Uncle Miguel to play with you again?" The little girl's eyes lit up. "Really, Daddy?" "Yes, really." That same afternoon, Richard sought out Miguel. "Miguel, I'm sorry. You can be Emma's friend again." "Sir? My daughter needs you, and I need to learn from you." "How do you mean, sir?" I want you to teach me how to play with her, how to make her laugh like you do." Miguel smiled for the first time in days. "It would be an honor, Mr. Harrison." From that day on, a new routine took hold in the house. Every day when Richard came home from work, he found Miguel and Emma playing in the garden. Instead of interrupting, he joined them. At first, Richard felt ridiculous trying to imitate animal sounds or invent voices for imaginary characters. But little by little, seeing the growing joy on Emma's face, he began to loosen up. "Now Daddy has to be the lion," Emma shouted, clapping her hands. "I don't know how to be a lion," Richard said, embarrassed. "Just like this, sir." Miguel let out an exaggerated roar that made Emma burst into laughter. Richard tried to imitate it, producing a sound more like a cat with a sore throat, which only made Emma laugh even harder. "Daddy is such a funny lion," she said, running to hug him. During these moments, Richard observed Miguel carefully. The man had a natural gift for fatherhood that went far beyond his social status or education. There was an emotional wisdom in his interactions with Emma that Richard had never possessed. One afternoon, after a particularly fun play session, Richard invited Miguel for coffee on the patio. "Miguel, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course, sir." "How did you make your daughter laugh?" Miguel smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "Lily was a lot like Emma, always serious, very smart. My wife used to say she was born an adult." "And what did you do?" "I pretended her toys had lives of their own. Every doll had a personality. Every toy car had a name. Lily loved it when I acted like I was talking to them. And it worked. Every time. She'd dive completely into the fantasy. Sometimes I'd come home and find her playing alone, but chatting with her toys as if they could really answer." Richard thought of Emma, always so neat with her toys, always so well behaved. "Miguel, do you still miss her a lot?" "Every day, sir. But playing with Emma makes me feel like I'm still a father in some way." That night, Richard had a long conversation with himself. He realized he'd spent the last 3 years so focused on providing financially for Emma that he'd forgotten to provide emotionally. Working too much had become his way of coping with his own grief over losing Catherine, but in the process, he'd grown distant from his daughter. The next morning, Richard made a radical decision. He cancelled all his afternoon meetings and showed up at home for lunch. "Emma, how about we spend this afternoon just the two of us? What about Uncle Miguel?" "Uncle Miguel can play with us tomorrow. Today, I want to learn how to be a better dad." They spent the whole afternoon in the garden. Richard left his phone inside and devoted himself completely to his daughter. He tried silly voices, made up wild stories about birds that spoke English and dogs that drove cars. Emma laughed so hard she sometimes had to stop to catch her breath. "Daddy, you're so funny when you want to be," she said, hugging him tightly. "Really?" "Yeah. Why didn't you do this before?" Emma's innocent question hit him deeply. "Because Daddy was scared, sweetheart." "Scared of what?" "Scared I wouldn't be as good at it as Mommy was." Emma grew thoughtful for a moment. "Daddy, Mommy didn't play with me like you and Uncle Miguel do." "What do you mean?" "Mommy was more serious. She taught me things, helped me with homework, told me bedtime stories, but you were the one who played with me." Richard stopped, confused. "I played with you before?" "Of course. You took me to the park, pushed me on the swing, taught me how to ride a bike. Did you forget?" The memories came flooding back. Before Catherine passed, Richard really had played with Emma. He'd completely forgotten that part of himself, as if the pain of loss had erased the good memories too. "Why did you stop playing with me after Mommy left?" Emma asked, with the brutal honesty of children. Richard picked her up and held her tight. "Because Daddy was so sad. He forgot how to make you happy. But now I remember. You won't forget again?" "Never again, my girl, I promise." That night, Richard realized Miguel had been more than just an employee who played with his daughter. He'd been a mirror showing Richard the father he'd once been, and could be again. The next morning, Richard sought out Miguel once more. "Miguel, can I ask you a favor?" "Of course, sir." "I'd like you to keep playing with Emma, but now as family. no longer as employer and employee. Miguel seemed confused. "I don't understand, sir. I want to offer you a different job. I want you to be a sort of advisor, to teach me how to be the father Emma deserves, and to keep being the special friend you already are to her." "Mr. Harrison, You don't have to answer now. Think it over." But Miguel didn't need to think. "I accept, sir. It would be the greatest honor of my life." From that day on, the household dynamic changed completely. Miguel began working part-time as a janitor and part-time helping Richard rediscover fatherhood. Emma now had 2 men dedicated to making her happy, and Richard had a mentor patiently teaching him how to reconnect with his daughter. Their playtime in the garden became the highlight of every day. Richard learned to let loose, making animal sounds, inventing silly stories that made Emma burst into laughter, and lying on the grass without worrying about wrinkling his suit. "Now you two have to be horses, and I'm the princess who's going to ride," Emma commanded. Richard and Miguel got on all fours, neighing and galloping around the garden while Emma pretended to ride them. It was a scene that would have seemed absurd to anyone who knew Richard only as the serious, successful businessman. One afternoon, during their play, Emma asked a question that caught Richard off guard. "Daddy, can Uncle Miguel live here with us?" Richard looked at Miguel, who seemed equally surprised. "Why do you want him to live here, sweetheart?" "Because then we can play every day and he won't be sad alone at his house." Richard realized that Emma, with her childlike sensitivity, had picked up on Miguel's loneliness better than any adult. "Miguel, what do you think?" "Sir, I can't accept. It's already too much that you're paying me to—" "Miguel, you're not being paid to be my employee. You're being paid to be our friend, and friends help each other." That evening at dinner, Richard officially announced that Miguel would move into the guest house on the property. "Really, Daddy?" Emma bounced in her chair. "Really, that way you can play with him whenever you want and I can keep learning to be a better father." The smile on Emma's face at that moment was worth more than all the deals Richard had ever closed in his life. Miguel moved in the following weekend. He didn't have much, just a few clothes, some books, and a photo of his wife and daughter, which he placed on the nightstand. "Uncle Miguel, can I see the picture of your little girl?" Emma asked as they helped him settle in. Miguel carefully picked up the frame and showed it to her. "This is Lily. She was 6 when she went to live in heaven. She's pretty. I think she's happy knowing you take care of me now." Emma's simple words made Miguel cry right then, and Richard knew he'd made the right decision. With Miguel living on the property, their routine became even better. In the mornings, Richard left for work knowing Emma was in good hands. Miguel helped her with homework, played with her in the garden, and made sure she ate properly. When Richard returned in the afternoon, he was always greeted by a heartwarming scene. Emma and Miguel waiting for him in the garden, ready for their daily play session. "Daddy, today Uncle Miguel taught me how to make a kite." Emma ran to hug him as soon as he arrived. "Really? Did you get it to fly?" "We did. Want to see?" And off the 3 of them went to the garden, Richard loosening his tie and preparing for another afternoon of pure joy. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The weeks turned into months, and Richard noticed profound changes not only in Emma, but also in himself. He became more patient at work, more present at home, and more connected to his own emotions. Miguel had changed too. The deep sadness in his eyes was gradually being replaced by peace. Caring for Emma was, in a way, healing his own wounds. One evening, after Emma had gone to sleep, Richard and Miguel stayed talking on the porch of the main house. "Miguel, can I ask you something that might be a bit personal?" "Of course, sir." "Don't you ever think about starting over? Finding someone? Having more children?" Miguel was silent for a long moment. "I've thought about it. But after losing Lily and Stephanie, I didn't think I could ever love anyone again. I was afraid of losing them too. And now? Now I realize love doesn't shrink when you share it. Taking care of Emma doesn't lessen the love I had for Lily. In fact, it makes me feel like Lily would be happy knowing I'm helping another child." Richard nodded, understanding. "What about you, Mr. Harrison? Have you never thought about remarrying?" The question caught Richard off guard. He had been so focused on reconnecting with Emma that he hadn't even considered the possibility. "Honestly, no. I always thought no woman could love Emma the way Catherine did. But what if you found someone who loved Emma for who she is, without trying to replace Catherine?" It was a perspective Richard had never considered. A few weeks later, during a trip to the park with Emma, Richard met Jennifer Wilson, a 32-year-old preschool teacher who was there with her class. Emma had wandered over to a group of children playing tag, and Jennifer immediately noticed how polite and well-behaved she was. "Your daughter is very sweet," Jennifer said to Richard. "Thank you. She's learning to be more carefree, more like a child." "How so?" Richard briefly shared how he had reconnected with Emma through Miguel's help, without going into too much detail. What a beautiful story. It's rare to see fathers so dedicated to truly understanding their children. They talked while the children played, and Richard was surprised by how easily he could talk to Jennifer. She had a natural way with children that reminded him of Miguel, but in a different, more maternal way. When it was time to leave, Emma hugged Jennifer spontaneously. "Aunt Jennifer, can you play with us another day? If your daddy says yes, I'd love to." Richard heard himself inviting Jennifer to lunch at their house the following Sunday, surprising even himself. When they got home, Emma was beyond excited. Uncle Miguel, we met a really nice teacher at the park." "Is that so, Princess? Tell me about her." "She plays just like you, and she has this way of talking to kids that's really nice. And Daddy invited her for lunch this Sunday." Miguel looked at Richard with a mischievous smile. "How interesting, Mr. Harrison." "It's nothing serious, Miguel, just a new friendship." "Of course, sir, just a friendship." On Sunday, Jennifer arrived promptly at noon. Richard had been nervous all week, but when she appeared at the door with a genuine smile and a gift for Emma, a children's storybook, he knew he'd made the right decision. "Hi, Emma. I brought something for you." "A book?" "Thank you, Aunt Jennifer." "Daddy, can I show her my room?" Richard nodded, and the two went upstairs together. He took the chance to talk to Miguel. "What do you think of her?" "I think Emma already approves, and that's the opinion that matters most, isn't it? And you?" "What do you think?" "I think you deserve to be happy, and a home always feels better with a woman's touch." When Jennifer Wilson and Emma came downstairs, they were chatting excitedly about the drawings Emma had shown her. "Your room is beautiful, Emma, and you draw so well. Aunt Jennifer said she can teach me to draw even better. Daddy, can I learn?" "Of course you can." Lunch was a completely new experience for Richard. Jennifer spoke naturally with both him and Miguel, showing no prejudice about the unusual household situation. She asked genuine questions about Richard's work, Miguel's story, and Emma's interests. "Miguel, Richard told me you have a special gift for making children happy." "Oh, the little one exaggerates. I just like to play." "That is a gift. I've worked with children for 10 years, and I can recognize someone with that natural sensitivity." Richard watched the interactions and realized Jennifer wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was genuinely interested in getting to know his family, and that included Miguel. After lunch, they all went to the garden. Jennifer was surprised to see Richard and Miguel playing with Emma together, without any hierarchy or formality. "My, what a beautiful family you make," she remarked without thinking. "Family?" Emma asked. "Yes, sweetheart. You three love and care for each other. That's family." Richard felt his heart warm at the observation. That afternoon, Jennifer joined in the games with a naturalness that surprised everyone. She could imitate animal voices as well as Miguel, made up stories as creative as Richard was learning to tell, and had endless patience with Emma. "Now let's play school. I'm the teacher, Daddy is the rowdy student, Uncle Miguel is the studious one, and Aunt Jennifer is the principal," Emma announced. And off they went, the 4 adults playing school in the garden, sitting on the grass like children. When Jennifer left, it was already getting dark. Emma hugged her tightly. "Aunt Jennifer, can you come back anytime? If your Daddy and Uncle Miguel invite me, I'll come back." "Daddy, invite her," Richard laughed. "Jennifer, You're welcome here whenever you'd like. That night, after Emma fell asleep, Richard and Miguel talked about the day. She's special, Mr. Richard. She really is. And Emma adored her. It's not just Emma who adored her. Richard smiled, admitting to himself that Miguel was right. Jennifer's visits became frequent. She came on weekends, sometimes during the week after work. She always brought a new activity for Emma. Art supplies, books, educational games. Richard realized he was looking forward to the day she would visit. He planned meals, chose his clothes more carefully, even styled his hair differently. "Daddy looks handsome today," Emma remarked one Saturday morning. "You think so?" "I do. Is it because Aunt Jennifer is coming for lunch?" "Maybe." "Daddy, do you like Aunt Jennifer?" Emma's direct question caught him off guard. "I do. And you?" "I like her a lot. She's kind and funny. And she likes you too." "How do you know?" "Because she looks at you the same way you look at her." Emma's childlike wisdom sometimes startled Richard. That afternoon, while Emma and Miguel baked cookies in the kitchen, Richard and Jennifer talked on the porch. "Jennifer, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "You've never married, never wanted children?" "I've dated several times, but I never found someone who wanted a real family. Most men I've met want a woman who won't interfere with their career, who won't demand their time, who won't want children too soon." "And you want all that?" "I want a family. I want to wake up knowing I have people who depend on me and that I can take care of. I want to be part of the homework, the school meetings, the playtime in the garden. What if it were a family that already exists, a daughter who isn't biologically yours?" Jennifer Wilson looked him in the eyes. "Richard, children don't need our blood to be ours. They need our love, our dedication, our presence. If someone allowed me to love a child who already exists, I'd love her as if she were mine from the very first day." At that moment, Richard knew he was hopelessly in love. "Jennifer, would you like to have dinner with me?" "Just the two of us?" "I'd love to." "And after, would you like to be part of this crazy family?" "What crazy family?" "One with a businessman learning to be a father, a former janitor who became a parenting advisor, a 7-year-old girl wiser than any adult, and now maybe a teacher who can teach us all to be even better." Jennifer smiled, her eyes shining. "Sounds like the perfect family to me." That evening, during dinner, Richard made an official announcement. "Emma, how would you feel if Jennifer became part of our family forever?" "What do you mean, Daddy?" "If she came to live with us, and we became a real family." Emma looked at Jennifer, then at Miguel, then back at Richard. "Would she be my new mommy?" "If she wants to, and if you want her to." "I do, but..." Emma seemed thoughtful. "She won't try to make me forget my first mommy, will she?" Jennifer knelt beside Emma's chair. "Emma, your first mommy will always be your first mommy. No one could ever take her place in your heart. I just want to be your second mommy, if you'll let me. To take care of you, play with you, love you every day. And Uncle Miguel will still be our friend." "Of course. Miguel is part of our family now." Emma hugged Jennifer. "Then I do want you to be my second mommy." Richard and Jennifer's wedding took place 6 months later in a small ceremony in the backyard. Emma was the flower girl, Miguel was Richard's best man, and the whole celebration honored the family they'd built. During the reception, Richard took in the scene around him. Emma danced with Jennifer, both laughing loudly. Miguel chatted animatedly with guests, sharing funny stories about life in the house. Mrs. Parker coordinated the service with the pride of someone watching her family grow. "What are you thinking about?" Jennifer asked, slipping her arm through his. "I'm thinking that 2 years ago I thought I had everything in life. Money, success, a well-raised daughter, but I really had nothing. And now? Now I have a daughter who laughs every day, a friend who taught me how to be a father, a wife who chose to love our whole family, and I've learned that being rich has nothing to do with money." Jennifer kissed him. "You know what amazes me most about this whole story?" "What?" "How Miguel managed to save not just you and Emma, but himself too. He found a way to be a father again, without forgetting the daughter he lost." Richard looked over at Miguel, who was teaching Emma how to make a new kite. "You know what I've realized? Sometimes heaven puts people in our lives who seem to need our help, but really, they're the ones who came to save us." Miguel told me something beautiful yesterday, Jennifer said. What? He said when he plays with Emma, he feels like Lily is playing too. That in some way, taking care of our daughter is how he honors the memory of his own. Our daughter? Yes, our daughter. Richard felt tears well up. Jennifer had called Emma our daughter with the ease of someone who truly loved her as her own. Life in the house settled into a happy routine. Richard and Jennifer Wilson got married on a Friday, and by Monday everyone was back to their normal routine as if they had always been a family. Jennifer brought subtle but important changes. The house became cozier, with fresh flowers in every room. She cooked meals that filled the home with delicious aromas. She set up a study nook for Emma that was both functional and inviting. But the biggest change was in Emma herself. With Jennifer, she rediscovered the joy of having a maternal figure present again. Jennifer helped her pick out clothes, brushed her hair in the mornings, and read bedtime stories. "Mommy Jennifer, can I tell you a secret?" Emma said one night before bed. "Of course, sweetheart. Sometimes I talk to my first mommy before I fall asleep. I tell her about my day." "And what did you tell her today?" "I told her I have a second mommy now who loves me very much, and that she doesn't need to worry about me because I'm being taken care of so well." Jennifer had to fight back tears. "And what do you think she said?" "I think she was happy, and I think she likes you." "How do you know?" "Because when Daddy is happy, I know she's happy too. And Daddy has never been as happy as he is now." From that day on, Jennifer began including the memory of Emma's first mother in their routines. They drew pictures to send to the star mommy, picked flowers from the garden to offer to the mommy in heaven, and made up stories where the first mommy appeared as a guardian fairy. Richard watched all of this with admiration. Jennifer had found a way to honor Catherine while building her own relationship with Emma, without competition or jealousy. Miguel also adapted perfectly to the new family dynamic. He and Jennifer became great friends, united by their shared love for Emma and the mutual respect they developed. "Jennifer," Miguel said one afternoon as they prepared Emma's snack together, "can I thank you for something?" "Of course." "What?" "For including me in this family. You could have thought it was strange having a former employee living here, but you accepted me as if we'd always been family." "Miguel, family isn't just about blood. Family is the people we choose to love and who choose to love us back. You chose to love Emma when she needed it most, and Richard chose to value you for that. Now I choose to love all of you. Emma is so lucky to have so many people who love her." "No, Miguel. We're all lucky to have found each other." A year after the wedding, Richard received a job offer that would require constant travel and a move to New York. The salary would be 3 times his current one, an extraordinary career advancement. He brought the offer home and discussed it with Jennifer. "It's an amazing opportunity," she said after reading the papers. "Would you accept?" 2 years ago, I would have said yes, without a second thought. More money was always my priority. And now? Now I think about Emma having to move, leave her school friends, leave this house where she's happy. I think about you having to leave your job here. I think about Miguel. "Richard, you don't have to make this decision alone. We're a family. Let's decide together." That evening, they gathered the whole family in the living room: Richard, Jennifer, Emma, and Miguel. "Everyone, I need to tell you something," Richard said. "I got a very good job offer, but it would mean we'd have to move to New York." "Is New York far?" Emma asked. "Yes, sweetheart, and I'd have to travel a lot." "And would we go with you?" "You would, but I'd be home less." Emma grew thoughtful. "Daddy, do you want to take this job?" "It's complicated, Emma. It would be very good for Daddy's career, but it would mean less time with you all. And what about Uncle Miguel? Would he go too?" Richard looked at Miguel. "If you all went, I'd like to go along, if you'd let me." "Of course," Emma said immediately. "But what if Daddy stayed here instead?" Jennifer Wilson asked. "What if he chose to stay close to family?" "Can I do that?" Emma asked. "Yes, sweetheart. Daddy can choose what's best for our family." Emma stood up and hugged Richard. "Then choose to stay, Daddy. We already have money. But if you're gone too much, There won't be any more playtime in the garden every day. The decision was made. Richard turned down the offer and never regretted it. 2 years later, he started his own consulting firm, working from home and traveling only when necessary. Jennifer Wilson was promoted to educational coordinator at the school where she worked. Miguel officially took on the role of family wellness coordinator, a title they invented to define his unique place in the household. "What exactly does a family wellness coordinator do?" one of Richard's friends asked during a party. "He makes sure we're all happy," Richard replied. "He organizes games, resolves conflicts, gives advice, tells stories, teaches values, and most importantly, reminds us every day what truly matters in life." And does it work? Richard looked around the party. Emma was teaching the other children how to make paper airplanes. Jennifer Wilson was chatting with the other mothers, sharing tips on child rearing. Miguel was surrounded by men eager to learn his secrets for getting kids to listen without yelling. It works perfectly. Emma, now 10, had grown into a well-balanced, joyful and confident child. She still talked to her star mommy before bed, but now she also shared her days with Jennifer Wilson. She had 2 fathers who adored her, and 2 different examples of masculinity. Richard, the businessman who had learned to cherish family, and Miguel, the simple man who had taught them all the true meaning of love. "Daddy," Emma said one night at dinner, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Do you regret letting Uncle Miguel play with me that day?" Richard smiled. "If I hadn't, maybe I'd never have learned how to be a real father. Maybe I'd never have met Jennifer Wilson. Maybe our family would never have existed. So was it good that I cried in the garden that day?" "Why were you crying anyway?" "Because I wanted a daddy who would play with me, and I didn't know how to ask." Richard's heart tightened. "And now you don't just have a daddy who plays, but a whole family who loves playing with you." "And the best part," Emma said, looking at each of them, "is that our family was chosen. No one was born into it. Everyone chose to stay together because they love each other." Jennifer Wilson squeezed Richard's hand under the table. "That's right, my love. This is a family built with so much care. And a family that came to be because one man had the courage to let another man be a father alongside him," Miguel said. "And because a little girl taught us all that love isn't about possession, it's about sharing," Richard added. That night, after Emma went to sleep, the 3 adults stayed talking on the porch as they did every evening. "Do you know what amazes me most about our story?" Jennifer Wilson said. "What?" Richard and Miguel asked together. "How each of us was lost in a different way, and when we came together, we found ourselves." "How so?" Miguel asked. Richard had lost his connection with his daughter. Miguel had lost his purpose as a father. I was lost, searching for a family to love. And Emma was lost, needing adults who truly saw her. "And now?" Richard asked. "Now each of us has found exactly what we needed." Richard rediscovered fatherhood. Miguel found a new way to be a father. I found a family ready to welcome me. And Emma found adults who love her exactly as she is. Miguel nodded. "It's funny how life works. I thought I'd lost everything when I lost my family. But what I really lost was just one way of being happy. Here, I discovered another." "And you don't feel like you're betraying Lily's memory?" asked Jennifer Wilson gently. "At first, I did. But then I realized Lily would want to know her daddy kept spreading love in the world. Loving Emma doesn't take away from the love I have for Lily. In fact, it makes me feel like Lily is helping other children through me." Richard listened to the conversation with deep gratitude in his heart. "I've learned something important all these years," he said. "I learned that being rich isn't about having a lot of money. Being rich is having people who sincerely love you and the wisdom to love them back. And I learned that family isn't just who you're born with," said Jennifer. "Family is who chooses to stay together through good days and bad." "I learned it's never too late to start over," said Miguel. "At 45, I thought my life was over, but really, it was just beginning a new chapter." The 3 fell silent for a moment, each lost in thought. "You know what I love most about this house," Richard said. "What?" the others asked. "The laughter. This house is always full of laughter. In the morning when Emma wakes up, in the afternoon when we come home from work. At night during bath time. On weekends when we play. It's real, spontaneous, genuine laughter. And do you know why we laugh so much? Miguel asked. Why? Because here, we all have permission to be happy. No one has to pretend. No one has to be perfect. No one has to prove anything. We can just be ourselves and be loved exactly as we are. Jennifer smiled. That's exactly right. Emma gets to be a child. Richard gets to be the playful father he always wanted to be. Miguel gets to be the wise friend and advisor he is. And I get to be the mother I always dreamed of being. Everyone has space to be their best self. And the most beautiful part, Richard said, is that our story continues every day. Each morning is a new chance to be an even better family. Daddy, can I sleep with you tonight? Emma appeared on the porch, a teddy bear tucked under her arm. Of course, sweetheart. Did you have a bad dream? No, I just wanted to be close to everyone. Jennifer scooped her up. Then let's all sleep together tonight. Uncle Miguel too, if he wants to. I'd love to, Princess. And so that night, the four of them slept together in the master bedroom, in what Emma called a family sandwich, each protecting and being protected by the others. The next morning, Richard woke early and watched his family sleeping around him. Jennifer held Emma nestled in her arms. Miguel slept on the other side, a protective hand resting on the girl's shoulder. 3 years ago, Richard had slept alone in a king-sized bed in a silent house with plenty of money in the bank but an empty heart. Now he slept squeezed into a bed full of people in a house full of life, and he'd never felt richer. When everyone woke, they went to the garden for breakfast as they did on weekends. Emma ran to play in the dew-covered grass, Jennifer prepared the fruit, and Miguel went to fetch fresh bread from the bakery. Richard stayed behind for a few minutes watching the movement around him. Suddenly, he understood perfectly why it had taken him so long to find happiness. He'd been looking for it in all the wrong places, in work, in money, in professional success. Happiness was right there, in those simple moments, in Emma's laughter echoing through the garden, in the aroma of coffee Jennifer Wilson was brewing, in the calm conversation with Miguel about the day's plans, in the afternoon playtime, in the evening chats, in the spontaneous hugs, in the small daily kindnesses. "What are you thinking about, love?" Jennifer Wilson asked, returning with a tray of fruit. "I'm thinking I finally understand what it means to be truly successful." "And what is that?" "It's waking up every day surrounded by people you love and who love you back. It's having a daughter who runs to hug you when you come home. It's having a wife who chose to love your entire family. It's having a friend who taught you to be a better person." Jennifer Wilson kissed him. "And it's having the humility to accept help when you needed it." "That's true. If I hadn't set my pride aside and accepted that Miguel could teach me something, maybe we would have never gotten this far." "Do you know what your greatest success was in all of this?" Jennifer Wilson asked. "What?" "Recognizing that Emma needed more love than just yours, and having the generosity to let other people love her too." Richard Harrison nodded. "I always thought love was about possession, that being a father meant being the only one to care for her, the only source of affection, the only role model. But I learned that love is about sharing. The more people love Emma, the more loved she is. And that doesn't diminish my role as a father. On the contrary, it makes me a better one." "Daddy! Mommy Jennifer! Uncle Miguel!" Emma shouted from the garden. "Come see! There's a baby bird here." The three of them ran to where she was. Sure enough, there was a baby robin that had fallen from its nest, chirping desperately. "Poor thing, it's lost," Emma said. "Let's look for its nest," Miguel suggested. They spent the whole morning searching for the bird's nest, building a small ladder to return it to its family. When they finally succeeded and saw the mother bird welcoming her chick back, Emma clapped her hands in joy. "Now it's back with its family again." "Just like us," Jennifer Wilson said. "We were all lost little birds until we found each other." "That's true," Emma laughed. "Daddy was a bird who didn't know how to sing. Mommy Jennifer was a bird without a nest. Uncle Miguel was a bird who had lost his nest. And I was a bird who sang softly because I was sad." "And now," Richard Harrison asked, Now we're a nest full of birds who sing loud and happy. Emma's childlike metaphor perfectly summed up their journey. End of story. Now tell us, what did you think of this family story? Can you imagine how often we judge people by their appearance or social status, missing the chance to meet human treasures like Miguel? Share your thoughts in the comments about this beautiful journey of love and overcoming. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories celebrating the transformative power of love in family.